So compassion satisfaction is something that was coined in a book by Dr. Figley about the way that people who have been in this field for 20 years have made it work. And what it means is that even when you have compassion fatigue, you have the chronic stress, the acute stress, the minor stresses, you have a resilience and you have an ability to be satisfied with the work so much that it actually offsets that. So you can find people that have, on a standardized test, have a high score for compassion fatigue. They are obviously impacted by the work that they do in a negative way, but they also have a very high score in compassion satisfaction. And that means that the joy they get from this work completely balances out the stress. So that's what we're going to try to create for everyone who is interested in staying in this field. The first thing to consider is your own worldview about who you think controls what happens to you and what happens to the animals that you care for. So if you find yourself feeling that the animals that you care for are brutalized by the world, that the world is a cruel place, that life is hard, then you are having a view of outside control of the things that happen, and that's unrealistic. If you have a view that every animal that isn't saved is directly related to something you did or did not do, if you feel like if you had just gotten up earlier and been on the highway 15 minutes sooner, you would have been the one to save a certain dog, then you have a point of view that everything is under your control and related directly to things that you do. That's also not realistic. So balance is what we're looking for. There are some things that you can control. There are some things that you cannot control. And we need to make sure we always know which ones they are. You don't control your county budget, but you absolutely do control getting to work on time and being able to save the number of animals that you can save, no more, no less. You can't accept the compliments that you are receiving every day. And I know you're all saying right now, compliments, I never receive compliments. You do. You can't hear them because you don't believe them yourself. And I will give you an example. How many times that you hear, and I do it myself at the end of my radio show, I say, the DJ says to me, Dee Dee, thanks for coming. And I say, thanks for having us. I have just deflected that complete thank you. So what you need to do instead is when someone says, thank you for coming, you say, you're welcome, I enjoy doing this. You have to make sure that you take on the compliments and thanks that you get, just like you take on the criticisms and stress that you get. It has to be even. One of the things about human behavior that's proven is that we attend 7 times more to negative information than we do to positive information. This is good. It can save your life. If you're walking down the street, you think someone might be following you, but you brush it off. And then a few steps later, you're sure someone might be following you, so you duck into an establishment. You could save your life. But we don't pay attention as critically to all the good things that happen during the day. So you're going to have to make a mental practice of attending to the things that happen during the day that are good, as much as, if not more than, the things that happen during the day that are bad. And if this requires you to carry a notebook and write them down, then that is absolutely what you need to do. Some people use their cell phone and record them, a self-recorded memo. You know, some people call their voicemail and leave themselves a message. It doesn't matter how you do it, but you need to be mindful and accepting of all of the good things that happen during the day. I know what some brick and mortar shelters do is they have a bell that they ring whenever a pet is adopted, because what happens in the back of the shelter is you're very well aware of how many dogs have come in during the day, and you have no idea that 7 or 8 have just gone out the door to their new lives from yesterday. So it's very important that you set up rituals and ways to record the great things that happen in the day as concretely and carefully as you remember every excruciating bad moment of your day. So finally, in compassion fatigue treatment, you're going to need to develop and value resilience in your life and in the life of the people that you work for, that work for you, colleagues. Be accountable when someone says to you, hey, I think that you are taking this too seriously, and also be willing to do that for other people in an understanding way. If you think that someone is getting too rigid with their response to a request. One of the common things we see in compassion fatigue is that you feel like saying no before someone's request is even halfway out of their mouth. If that's how you feel, then you can't possibly be listening to the words that are coming from them, and you need to check yourself with what else is going on. So to develop resilience, what you're going to need to do is acknowledge that you don't control the world and the world doesn't control you. Neither one of those views is balanced and correct. The other thing is to have realistic goals and expectations. I do believe that in my lifetime, there is probably not going to be a need for animal shelters run by the government, much like orphanage are no longer run by the government. I am imagining that with time, there will be animals that are in need in the community that are farmed out to local veterinarians as an outsourcing of the government to those private businesses. And the reason I say that, and I know you're all saying, no, that's crazy, it's in our lifetime, we'll never see the end of this, is that 10 years ago, the estimates for the animals euthanized in shelters was upwards of 14 million. And only 10 years later, the total number of animals that are even passing through animal shelters is probably far less than 8 million. So we are solving it. We're solving it, and we've done it, made a huge difference in the last 10 years. So I suspect that there will come a day where you and I are all looking for other work, and won't that be great? But one of the symptoms of compassion fatigue, if you have it, is that you are all now, right now, saying, that's not true. There's no way it's going to be solved in our lifetime. Well, those numbers she just gave can't possibly be right. If that is happening to you, then you need to check yourself and think about, why are statistical facts that I can prove and back up not acceptable to you? Because in some way it's threatening to you. It's change. Change occurs constantly. It could be good, especially the change of not needing rescues anymore. You're going to have to foster forgiveness in yourself and other people. A lot of the times we are very judgmental of people who give up their pets. One of the things that I ask people in live sessions is, how many of you have ever fostered a pet that you thought you might end up adopting? And everyone raises their hand. Of course, we've all taken home an animal that may or may not have worked out for us. So how many of you have ever not kept that fostered pet? Oh, probably 95% of the hands go up, because you take home an animal, you realize he doesn't get along with one of your other pets you're already committed to, or you take on a new volunteer project and you're not able to give him the training he needs. So isn't that relinquishing a pet? Isn't that saying that I don't have the resources for this animal, so I am not going to keep him forever? Now, surely we all have resources and knowledge and ways to make sure that that pet goes to a great place, but not the average citizen does not have that. So when they come to us and our reaction is to take in a dangerous feral cat who is injuring us as we are moving her to a safe place and having compassion for her, yet when a woman with 7 children and a dog comes in and says that she's not going to keep that dog, we say, well, she should get spayed herself. It is not a compassionate reaction that we have for the people that are in a similar situation to something that we've done ourselves. So we always need to have that forgiveness for people who don't know what we know, who haven't walked the road we've walked, and who really don't know the outcomes can be as dire as they can be, which we are faced with every day. And the average citizen just has no idea that things can be that dire. The other thing you're going to need to do is to predict what your needs will be in the future, which isn't easy. What we tend to do is put out fires every day, and we never have a 5-year plan or even a 3-year plan or even a 1-year plan. So what you do need to do is consider over time. Where do you want to be in 5 years? What do you want to be working on in 3 years? And next year, what do you want to have accomplished that you have not done yet today? So all of those things are in a self-care plan that we're going to share with you, so you can fill out and assess your needs, and you will be able to do this. And at any time, if you need to contact me about your work along the way, I would be happy to help you with that.